Hi, welcome to the Rally Education webinar series. We're really glad that you could join us today. I'm very happy to have Shelly Sakuja. She is our technology expert, and today she's going to be speaking about Staar Rehearsal Online with the accessibility features. Shelly?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Margaret, for introducing me. And as she mentioned, I'm going to be sharing with you all today about our Staar Rehearsal Online program that we have for both math and reading. And before I begin, just a little bit about who we are here at Rally Education. We do specialize in resources for the TEKS, not just for reading and math, but we do have assessment instruction, we have various online programs, as well as dual language. And you'll be able to find various resources on our website, and I've listed that down below. And today we're going to talk more about the technology programs. Who are the folks that you want to reach out to in Team Texas? So the first one you'll see is myself, Shelly Sakuja. Shelly Morris and Yvonne also cover parts of San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, and so on. And we're definitely here to answer any questions, and I'll provide our contact information at the end of the presentation. So in terms of the Staar rehearsals, what you'll notice is that not only does our program allow students with special needs have access to the accessibility features, but students who might be learning the language can also use this in terms of, the different supports. We have audio, we have the ability to zoom in and things like that, and even vocabulary support as well. And the administrators and teachers are both going to be able to have access immediately to the reports that we provide, and they're instantly generated based on the results from each of the students. And we'll take a look at each of these accommodations and reports as we go along today. Now, there have been a lot of changes that have taken place when it comes to the STAR assessment. Some of those you'll notice are the accessibility features that I mentioned in terms of the accommodation. There are resources, both paper and online. We get our information and we try to correlate and simulate the best as we can according to the TEA. Now, some of the key highlights that you're going to see, not only on our program, but again, coming from the TEA itself, is the ability to have items like a highlighter, being able to have text-to-speech, vocabulary supports, and all of these types of features in terms of zooming in and taking notes. We're going to see those features and functions on our program. And I'm actually going to be logging in live, so you'll be able to see exactly what they look like and how they're used. And right before I log in, just quickly, here are some of the tools that we do offer. For example, a calculator, being able to highlight, even the ability to eliminate an answer. And so as we go through the program, you'll see these different tools, and I'll try to point them out as we go along. And of course, at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat function in the Join Me toolbar, and we'll be sure to respond as quickly as we can. Welcome to Staar Reading Rehearsal Online. And so what we're looking at here today is the actual program. And what you see in front of you is a passage as well as some questions. And I've logged in, I'm in as a student. My steps would be to read the passage and answer the questions and move along through each question as it goes on. Now, if you remember, I had mentioned just a moment ago that we have the various features available. And some of those functions and features we can see up here, being able to move back and forth between the different questions. And I'll be using that in just a second. If I needed to flag a question and mark it as, I'm not quite sure if this is something I'm comfortable answering yet, I can always come back to it. And you'll notice over here, my question number 31 has lit up with a flag because I need to come back to it before I finish and submit this. Eliminating an answer. If I look at the choices here, maybe, I definitely know it's not C. I could choose eliminate answer and almost gray it out. And it's definitely not A. So now I'm just left with B and D, and I can make the best selection. I can focus on those two if I know that it's not C and it's not A. Some other tools you'll notice are highlight. He beat me by 2 strokes. Maybe they'll ask me down the road in another question about how this other person had won this particular race, or what I was able to accomplish, even better than I do, and so on. So you have the ability to highlight, and of course you can use different colors. So maybe this is a number about 21.5 months younger. I'll highlight that in different, maybe it's like not as much of a priority of something for me to highlight. You might color code the paragraph according to what makes sense to you. If you wanted to jot down any notes, this passage is very important, especially paragraph 2, whatever it may be. I'm putting a note for myself that I'm going to have access to when I need to. Of course, you can save and pause, zoom in if I need help in terms of reading this. Maybe it's a lot of information, and visually I see better and read better and understand it better. Having a little bit more of a close-up or zooming out could be the other way around, that I want to be able to see all of this passage. And of course, the help option, where here you'll notice the background of this program is very, very faint blue. But if I wanted to make it green, maybe that the black text against the green background maybe just accentuates the passage a little better for myself. This is a feature and function that we include as well. All right, so we switched back our color back to the light blue here. And now what you'll notice is we'll take a look at the question. So it's asking the student to reread paragraph 8. So I can open up this and see a little bit more about what paragraph 8 is. Of course, I can scroll down to paragraph 8 right here, now my 13th birthday. Some other options I have, this was a great tool to have a quick view at paragraph 8. I also have the ability to hear what the question
Reread
is.
paragraph 8.
Okay.
Which answer best paraphrases the meaning of the last sentence?
When you have this audio tool, you're able to have the program read the question and questions to you out loud. You also have the ability to control the pace, how slow or how fast you would like it, and of course, the volume, how loud or low you would like to hear it. We want to make the student comfortable, so they have the ability to have the questions read out loud to them. They also have tools, if you notice here, the sentence is, I'm not usually given to hysterics. And there's a little question mark, and it's kind of like blue, dotted, underlined, things like that. That means I can click on it, and I can get a better idea of what that term hysterics means. There's a definition, wildly emotional reactions. If I click back on it, it gets covered away. And you'll notice that there are various supports like this throughout the passage. So this is telling me a little bit about the boundary waters. I can scroll down, undoubtedly, sufficient, and so on. So should I need to use these vocabulary supports, I have access to that as well. We talked about flagging, we talked about eliminating answers, being able to highlight with the colors that are available, being able to take notes, saving and pausing your assessment, zooming in and zooming out, and of course with the audio to read the questions, and being able to change the colors in the background. So these are just a few of the features I wanted to point out here on the Staar reading rehearsal. What you'll notice as well as we go on to the next questions, in this case, the passage is the same, but the question has changed. And again, we have features available.
Why is paragraph 2 important to the story? It contains the climax of the story.
So it will read the questions out loud. Again, you can change the speed, you can change the volume, and you can select your answer and continue through the program. And so each passage and each question is there. The student can continue throughout the program. In my particular case, I had flagged question number 31. I can double check which ones I need to go back and review. And when I am completely sure that I've answered all the questions according to the best of my knowledge, I would finish. And then the teacher will get the instant reports. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to showcase what those reports look like. All right, so now that we have seen the STAR reading rehearsal online and the students have all completed that assessment and they have pressed finish, the teacher gets the immediate results. And what do those results look like? Well, here you go. So we have the reports clearly laid out in such a way. There are color tools to kind of help you visualize exactly the areas of weakness and strength. So red would be students who are having a minimal understanding for that particular TEKS. Going on towards more of a limited understanding would be in the brown. Green displays a little bit more of a satisfactory, and blue is a thorough understanding. So when we look at our student, for example, Lisa here, she has a kind of a mix of the various colors, which means she has a mix of understanding just each particular TEK at a different level. So she's doing quite well in 4.7, but at 4.8, she's struggling, and so on. So the numbers vary for this particular student. What we want you to get away from this information is exactly who needs help and assistance, but also at what particular areas. And you're able to take a look at this by each student or from a general class average, which is really helpful as well. And we do break them down in terms of the readiness TEKS and the supporting TEKS as well, using that same type of color system, the same display of individual students and the average, but based on either readiness or supporting. And one thing to point out here is, should you happen to use the two forms that we have available? Now, the STAR rehearsals have a Form 1 and a Form 2. If you were to get both forms, what you could do is offer the students to do the Form 1. They go through the rehearsals, they answer the questions, and so on. Once they finish and they get the report, you have access to it like we're looking at right now. Then you distinguish and identify exactly the areas that you need to intervene. We then go ahead and you work with your students and you provide that intervention and remediation. And then if you do Form 2, let's say a few weeks later, again, the results are generated here, like in the reports. It will be a different report, of course. And you can do a little cross comparison between the report that you generated from Form 1, and you can compare it with the reports you generated from Form 2, and really have a nice view of the pre and the post assessments and where that growth has occurred, who may still need additional assistance, and things of that nature. So having access to two forms is very beneficial and really allows teachers to identify those strengths and weaknesses. All right, so now that we've taken a look at the STAR reading rehearsal, we're gonna log in here, like I've done right now, to the STAR math rehearsal online. And we have tried to keep it consistent in terms of the toolbar that you'll notice here. It looks very familiar. We do have the ability to move next and go back a previous question, being able to flag a question if the student is a little uncomfortable answering this, they're not quite sure yet, they're still working it out, they can mark it with the flag like we saw when I did that with the reading program. The ability to eliminate answers. If I know it's not B and I know it's not C, That means I can just focus on A and D and almost not worry about B and C. The ability to highlight, which I've done here. I highlighted this particular question because this is the information, but the actual question I need to really see clearly. I've highlighted it. For the questions that allow students to use calculators, we have a calculator tool available to them as well. There's a note section if I need to type in, expanded form, and I can work out the problem using my keyboard. And of course, the ability to save and pause. If I'm working on my questions and I'm not yet done, I can definitely save or pause that and come back to it. And zooming in, we noticed that before as well with the zoom out and zoom in functions. And just like when we were reading the passages, we had the vocabulary supports. We have something similar here for math. So if I'm a little confused on what expanded form means, I can see the clarification here. I can also see for the different terminology that are underlined with that kind of a blue dotted underline. And now I also
Vanessa
have
blew into a device that measured her lung capacity. After she blew into the device, it read 53.731.
So I'm just going to pause that. But we do have that same type of text to audio tool where I can control, again, the speed at which it's being read, and I can control the volume. If I need it to be a little bit light or a little bit louder, I can control that as well. So we give the features and functions that are allowed to the students right there at their fingertips. And as we progress through the different questions, you'll notice the types of questions that are being asked to the students and the different features and functions are available to them as well. We can take a look at the reports that are generated as soon as the students complete the assessment and they press finish. The results are ready to go. The teacher can generate these reports. And so what we're looking at here, because when we were looking at the STAR reading reports, we had the same types of color coding, class average, and listed by student. In this particular case, because we are looking at the STAR math results, and then there are two reports that you'll notice here, the tabs. So in this particular tab, it's for the process standards, and we see the colors, the average, and we can see here, for example, Norman, his areas of concern and where we need to focus that particular remediation with that student, and some of the areas we can look at where there might be satisfactory understanding and whatnot. And with the second tab below, you'll notice it's broken down by the TEKS, and we're able to, again, look at each individual student or the average across the board for our class as well. We also have Form 1 and Form 2 with the STAR Math. And so again, that concept of having the ability to give Form 1 as kind of like a pre-assessment, and then taking a look at the results like we are right now, then providing that follow-up remediation and intervention specifically to the students or those areas or those standards in which we need to focus on. We can do so, and then do a follow-up with a Form 2 assessment, generate those reports, and kind of do a cross comparison of how my students did on Form 1 and then how they did now that we have given them that remediation and intervention, and what those results look like for Form 2. So both STAR Reading and STAR Math have the two forms, and the teachers and administrators have access to the reports and the results, such as we see here on the screen. I did want to point out, not only do we have the online, but we have print. I'm going to take a moment to show you a little bit about that as well. So we looked at the STAR rehearsals online, both for reading and math. And what you may not know is that we do actually have reading and math rehearsal in print. Of course, the online programs are going to have those accessibility features, but for students that are using the print versions, we have those available as well. And they do have the 2 forms that we mentioned earlier as well, where you can do a pre and a post assessment. And of course, there's a preview that we can offer to you in terms of the online program. And we would set you up. You'd be able to explore the program, maybe share with your colleagues and get their feedback and input. Take a look at how the passages are set up or the different types of questions, play around with some of the different features and functions that are there. And we're more than happy to answer questions and discuss either the online program or the print or a combination of both, whatever makes sense for you and your district. So if you did have questions or you did want a preview or even a meeting or any kind of samples, you can take a moment to jot down our contact information. And I know that the STAR assessments are coming up this spring, and we want to make sure that you have exactly what you need and to help your students on their path to success. And so we thank you all for joining us today. Again, remember to use the chat functions on your toolbar to reach out to us with any questions, and we'll be answering those shortly.